Most businesses today have shadow AI. They just don't know it yet. Their teams are using AI tools to do real work, but they're on personal accounts with company data and potentially tools that have never been approved by anyone in the business. Owners and leaders think AI is something the business is working towards, but the reality is AI is already in the business. It's just not under any kind of control. By the end of the video, you'll know exactly what shadow AI looks like in 2026, why it has become a serious business problem and not just a security one. And we're also going to give you 4 actionable steps to protect AI in your business this month. I've spent 8 years deploying AI across businesses of all sizes, 6 of which were at Deloitte. And nowadays, unauthorized AI has become one of the biggest risks in businesses today. There's actually a name for it, and it's called shadow AI, the unapproved use of AI tools by employees without the knowledge or approval or oversight of the business. When most owners hear of shadow AI, they think of one thing, their team using ChatGPT, and yes, that's part of it, but it's now a small part. In 2026, shadow AI shows up in 6 places within inside a business, including free consumer AI tools like ChatGPT free, personal AI accounts, and much, much more. AI features built into the tools you already pay for, often switched on by default, such as Microsoft Copilot, AI inside Notion, Grammarly, Zoom transcribing meetings, all of these different things without anyone being aware of them. But the newest category of all are what some are calling shadow operations, autonomous AI agents running inside businesses with access to systems, doing things nobody senior has ever reviewed or potentially even approved. And there are a lot of elements to shadow AI, but the part most owners don't even realize is how widespread it already is within organizations. And here's a key stat for you, 27% of employees at businesses with 11 to 50 staff are actively using AI tools that have never been approved. That's the highest rate of any company size. Smaller businesses also average around 269 different shadow AI tools per 1,000 employees. Large enterprises with proper controls, they've got around 58 different tools. So the smaller your organization is, the more widespread it likely will be. And staggeringly, Microsoft's Work Trend Index found that 78% of AI users globally bring their very own AI tools to work. So at SMBs, that number rises to 80%. KPMG and the University of Melbourne also found that 57% of employees who use AI actually hide it from their employer. They use it, they just don't tell you they're using it. So before we get into why this is a problem, that's what we're actually dealing with. AI is already in most businesses and is being used to do real work on tools that have never been reviewed with data that has never been classified by people who have never been trained on how to use it correctly on a scale that nobody has even measured. That is what unprotected AI actually looks like. So why is this a problem? Well, for a long time, this conversation lived inside IT. Shadow AI was treated as a security issue, something for the CISO to worry about. That's no longer where the conversation actually is. The reason this matters now for owners and senior leaders is that the consequences have moved out of IT into client trust, regulatory exposure, insurance, the data your team is moving every single day. And before I go through the 4 areas where this really hurts businesses, picture this for a second. Monday morning, one of your senior accountants worked on the weekend to get your year-end summaries ready for one of your biggest clients. The work comes back clean, the client gets it on time, and you thank them at today's meeting. But what you didn't see, to save the time, they pasted 3 full client tax returns into ChatGPT, but free, on a personal account so that they could draft the email summaries faster. That means 3 client tax returns just left your business on a tool you have never approved, on an account you can't see, into a system that you can't control. That is what unprotected AI looks like in 2026. It doesn't look like a breach, it just looks like a productive Monday. So now let me show you 4 areas where unprotected AI really impacts a business. So first, the financial cost. IBM publishes the cost of a data breach report every single year. The 2025 edition is the first one with a simple separate read on shadow AI. They found that 20% of breaches in organizations last year had at least one breach that involved shadow AI. And the breaches that involved that shadow AI on average cost $670,000 more than breaches without it. 97% of organizations that had an AI related breach is simply because they lacked proper AI access controls, not training, not policies, actual technical controls. And for a small business, that is not a hypothetical number. The exposure scales because the data your team is moving, client tax returns, litigation documents, customer lists, supplier contracts, is exactly the kind of data that drives up the cost of a breach. The second one, though, is regulatory exposure. And to be honest, this one is more sector specific than the last one, and is where most accounting firms and legal practices are at the most risk without realizing it. For example, if you run a US based accounting firm, IRC Section 7216 governs how you handle client tax data. It is a criminal statute up to 1 year in prison and $1,000 per violation, up to $100,000 if it relates to identity theft. If a member of your team pastes a client tax return into ChatGPT 3, even just to draft a summary, you may have just triggered Section 7216 violation. The fact that they were trying to be helpful doesn't matter to the IRS. And the same can be said for the legal industry as well. The American Bar Association published Formal Opinion 512 in mid 2024, which now sets the ethical bar for AI use in law firms. Lawyers must understand the AI tools they use, must protect client confidentiality, and must verify the outputs. There is now a database run by a researcher called Damien Charlatan tracking documented cases of AI hallucination showing up in court filings. And as of late 2025, that database now has over 1,348 cases globally. And Charlatan himself publicly said, before this spring, we had maybe 2 cases per week. Now we're looking at 2 or 3 cases every single day. And sanctions are now a regular occurrence, including a $31,000 sanction against K&L Gates, the 14th largest firm in the United States in 2025 and around May time, after their lawyers submitted a brief with 9 wrong citations and 2 cases that did not even exist. So again, ChatGPT have made them up entirely, also known as hallucinations. And if you're a UK-EU firm, the EU AI Act is now live. The first phase came into force in February 2025, including a mandatory AI literacy obligation for any business that touches AI within the EU for staff or clients. And by August 2026, the enforcement bodies start asking questions. And then for third, we're looking at client trust dimensions. And this is the one that most owners actually underestimate. Client confidentiality is the foundation of every business. If a client found out that their financial records, their legal matter, their personal data had been processed through an AI tool that nobody at the firm had vetted, approved, anything like that, then most of them would likely walk. Some of them would probably even go to the extent of suing. But I think it's unanimous in saying that none of them would be impressed. And to be honest, there has not yet been a high-profile small and medium-sized business case that broke open in the news. The cyber insurance carriers are already moving on this though, because AI exclusions are creeping into professional indemnity and cyber policies. And Verisk released a generative AI exclusion from general liability that came into effect in January 2026. And then last but not least, the fourth one is operational cost. Most owners don't actually see this one because it can be silent and under the water. Harvest Business Review and Stanford published research in September of 2025 on something they called AI work slot. AI-generated content that masquerades as good work, but lacks the substance to actually advance a task. They found that around 40% of workers had encountered it in the last month, and each instant cost roughly 2 hours of rework, and they're putting that cost at around $186 per affected worker per month. So for a 20-person business, that is several £1,000s or dollars a month in paid time, in mistakes, in things being redone, And it's happening because nobody is training teams on how to actually use AI and check is the right tool for that specific job. So as you can see, it's not just one risk, but it's actually four: financial, regulatory, client trust, and operational. And in most small and medium-sized businesses, all four are running at the same time every single day without anyone actually tracking it. And it's worth flagging one more key thing before we move on, because this isn't just a junior staff problem. Nitro actually published research in October at the end of last year showing that 68% of corporate executives had violated their very own company's AI policies in the last 3 months. In addition, Black Fog found that 69% of presidents and C-suite members are comfortable with unsanctioned AI use, prioritizing speed over governance. The people writing the rules are statistically actually the most likely to break them, which means that shadow AI cannot be solved top down by being the AI police. It actually has to be solved by changing the complete system and framework that surrounds it. The first natural reaction for any business leader is normally to go through and try and ban everything. No personal AI accounts at work, no ChatGPT free, no unapproved tools, and done. And to be frank, it's been tried repeatedly. Samsung tried it in 2023 after one of their engineers pasted actual source code into ChatGPT. Apple has banned it. Verizon has banned it. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and Citi. Every one of them eventually rolled it back and built internal AI environments instead. And when we look at research, the data on having bans is unambiguous. Cisco's data privacy benchmark study found that 63% of employees that are currently working under an AI ban just will use generative AI tools anyway. What they do is they use it on their phones, on their personal laptops, on incognito modes within actual work environments. The ban does not stop the behavior. It pushes the behavior into places that are just not as visible and not as easily to detect. This is the move that matters. You can't solve unprotected AI or shadow AI with a poster on the wall. You solve it by making the protected path the easiest path, which is what we're actually going to cover in this next part, so you have a framework to address shadow AI. We're going to run through 4 steps, and none of them are completely technical. All of them are around leadership decisions. The businesses that I work with who actually do this role usually have all 4 in place within the next 30 days. So let's kick it off with step 1. Discover what's actually being used within your business at the moment. Before you can actually protect anything, you need to know what is in the building. And to be honest, the single most effective thing that I found you can do within the next week is have a 50-minute conversation with your team. The framing really matters though. You're not running a witch hunt or anything in that sphere. You're saying it clearly. I'm not going to be angry about this. I'm not going to, have any repercussions for this. I just need to know what AI tools you are using to do your job so that I can make sure that we are doing it safely and correctly. And I think for many of you, you'll be surprised by the answer because most owners I work with discover their AI footprint is 3 or 4 times larger than they actually thought. Things that they didn't know even existed. Tools that came in by default with software they're already paying for, plugins, extensions, free accounts. You can't govern what you can't see. And most owners have never even actually tried to look for it. And then secondly, with step 2, decide what is in and what is out. We're looking to develop 3 tiers: approved tools that the team can use freely with company data, conditional tools that need a quick approval before any use, and last but not least, prohibited tools. They are the ones that no client information should ever touch or insights to be put into. And for your business, that means having at least a one-pager that explains what the team can actually do and can't do. We need to cover approved tools, what we can't use, who to ask if it's not clear, and any guidance beyond that. The outcome from this specific step is that for the first time, maybe your team has actually got a clear answer to the question, what can I use at work with what data? Because most of them have probably been guessing what they're allowed to do when it comes to AI and data. And then we come on to step 3, deploy a protected AI tool. This is the highest leverage move on the list, and to be honest, most owners I've seen overcomplicate it. The action is simple. Pay for one approved enterprise AI tool and roll it out to your entire team. That could be, for example, Microsoft Copilot for business around $30 a month, could be ChatGPT Teams for around $25 per month, and both come with contractual guarantees that your data is not used to train the underlying models. Both come with admin controls, and that means for a 20-person business, that's around $500 to $600 a month, which removes the majority of shadow AI exposure on day one. You are paying for the same capability your team is currently probably using on their personal accounts, except now it's in your business. It's on your terms, with an audit trail and with admin controls. Last but not least, step number 4. We're going to train the team, because this is the step that most businesses are actually skipping at the moment, and it's the multiplier beyond everything else we've discussed. We don't need a 90-minute compliance video. A 30-minute conversation with your team about all of these things is good enough. Firstly, we need to look at what client data, regulated data, confidential information actually looks like within your specific business, not the abstract. The specific files, fields, and documents your team is handling every single day, because most data exposure happens because the team and individuals don't know that they've even released sensitive information or summarizing points that again are sensitive and confidential. Secondly, we're going to give it a publicity test. Before pasting anything into an AI tool, ask yourself, would I be comfortable if all of this information was posted on the internet? If not, then don't post it, and if do, then crack on. That single question has consistently prevented the most damages I've seen. And lastly, number 3, how to actually use that approved tool. Because most shadow AI exists because the approved or alternative tool was harder to use than that free or personal version. If you don't show your team how to get value from the protected enterprise tool, they'll consistently drift back to the unprotected one, probably within a month. Employees to get more than 5 hours of AI training are significantly more likely to use that approved tool well. A study from Stanford actually found that for every $1 that you put into AI training, you get around a 5.9 productivity increase per person. So that's it, the nice simple framework. Discover, decide, deploy, and train. 4 steps, none of them requiring an IT department or 6-figure budget. They all require decisions from the top and probably around 30 days of attention. The businesses I work with that have already done this don't think about shadow AI really anymore. They think about how AI is actually helping them serve clients better, win more work, and free up capacity because they got those foundations right first. So right now you're somewhere probably between having unprotected AI within your business and fully protected AI in your business. Most small and medium-sized businesses are still on the unprotected side, but don't even realize it. The data this year has made one thing clear though. The window for treating this as a future problem is now closed. The cases are real, the fines are real, the regulators are moving. The insurance carriers are already pricing in. By the end of the year, every accounting firm, every legal practice, and a growing number of trade and service-based businesses are going to be asked by clients, regulators, or insurers what their AI policy is. The owners who have an answer will be in a completely different position to the ones that don't. And the best part, none of this requires you to slow down on AI in your business. Quite the opposite. The point of getting protected AI is so that you can move faster, not slower. So your team can use these tools properly on the work that matters, but without risking the client relationships, the regulatory standing that took you years and years to build. So don't think of this as a purely security project. This is what good leadership looks like within AI for 2026. So if this has been useful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The next video is going to deep dive all around AI governance, which is the operating system that sits behind everything I've talked about today. If you see today as the what and the why, that next one is the how. And lastly, if you want to move faster with AI in your business and get onto protected AI, help with training your team properly, or having us run the entire implementation for you, then make sure to click the link in the description and we'll help you get the most out of AI within your business. So as always, have a great week and I'll see you in the next one.